So if you want to show them how to put a shape on top of a shape.
Yeah. So let's say I'll just throw together like a real quick rectangular house for you. I need to remember my controls here. So right clicking, most of you are aware of your controls with your white squares. So your white squares are always controlling your size and shape. The grid size, yeah, that's your work surface. Sorry, converted to inches, it's a 10 inch by 6 inch. That's important just to make sure, like on your print surface, you kind of just have your work plane set up when you're building. But anyway, let's go into, say I want to keep a floor on this building. I keep using my wrong controls. If I were to keep this kind of level right now, and I were to try to cut this hole into my rectangle, it's going to cut the floor out of my building. So, as Ms. Swigart said, how can I have my shape kind of move it up so it won't cut that? If I use my little cone up top, now I can move that vertically.
Oh, for like doors and windows, huh?
Correct. So let's say, because I can take this whole shape, let me make it a little bit taller. When I cut holes, I like to have things like kind of work past this so I can see. A good thing to keep in mind too is if you're making walls, you don't need walls to really be too thick. I try to keep within like a 4 millimeter kind of range. So then have your kids do a little, like, keep that in mind. Like, you don't have to like be really thick, because the plastic, no matter the infill, it's always going to be strong plastic. So, but if I'm cutting this out, I have my shape set kind of in place. I'm selecting both of those, and then I have a group button that I can cut that out and make it like a shoebox. So this is where Savannah's trick just came into play. Her Jedi mind trick just got me. I would say thickness, probably keep it at 1/4 of an inch. Go ahead, Savannah.
Okay. So last year we did not have somebody like you, Mr. J. Instead, we kind of like did everything on our own. So, and I told Mrs. Swaggart this, I did each wall by hand. I did not group it and group it out. I did each wall by hand.
Good for you, though.
That's what I noticed. Yeah, that's impressive. It's very impressive, because that takes a lot of time to like have it all lined up, and yeah, it's a ton of time.
I know. I showed her that trick of like how you can quickly create like that hole inside, and she's like, "This would have been so helpful."
Right? You're like, well, how did I not know this? But anyway, so say you're like working on one building and you want to make, for example, just a flat roof. Same deal. You're going to use your cone up top, kind of lift that to the surface, and set it into play. So this is where like keeping some sort of shape, a transparent shape, is very helpful, because now no matter like what you put inside, now you can still see in it. And then when it comes time to print it, you just make it a solid, and now you have your roof on top.
Because I think the Pennsylvania folks are going to want to do pitched roofs, because I think most of your buildings there, but in New Mexico, we're almost all flat roof structures. I don't know if you all know that.
I did know that. I did. But anyway, you can also do a pitched roof. Same deal with like cutting the inside of that box. You just make your roof, I would almost say like get it to the size that you want it to be over top of your box.
And then like it shows you, so if you guys are, right now he's just kind of pulling things around, but like it shows you the measurements whenever you click on them, so you can see how long it is, how wide it is. So if you're trying to get the measurements exact and you measure what your box is, so then you know how big Yeah, and I was just about to say, you can click on them and you can change the measurements just by typing in what you want to, which I think was helpful.
Oh, it took me forever to learn that trick. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to stretch it to size. I could just type in the measurement.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you know that one, Savannah?
Yeah, I knew I had to go by there was a specific dimension that we had to go by because they said they were gonna print it and send it to us. I did not get that one in the mail.
You'll get this one, I promise.
We both said that too. Yeah, I have faith in Mrs. Swigert.
Yeah, we had to go and we had to type each dimension out of how many. We went off of inches, how many inches we wanted it to be, and everything lined up. And especially if I was doing each wall by each piece, and then the roof, I had to make sure that I did it perfectly. So I typed in the inches.
I love the idea of using transparent, especially like I said, Clinton really wants a multi-level apartment house. And I love the idea of doing the transparent, so thank you, Mr. J, because to see how it looks like lined up and then making it solid after they get it the way they want it. You don't have to raise your hand, just talk.
Yeah, just talk.
Gannon, I know you asked what keyboard shortcuts are very useful. Control D is for control duplicate. Please use that as much as you can. I definitely used the heck out of that one. Yeah, I'm sure my keyboard is probably that D probably cuts down so much.
And I do know that Tinkercad has created a cheat sheet almost of all the keyboard shortcuts. I think they make it in a PDF, but I would say one thing that I really use is even Control G for grouping. So that's where when you're putting your shapes together, so Control G, it can group, ungroup. So yeah, so all those shortcuts. I feel like you might not use all of those shortcuts, but just some of those key ones off of that list. Just see what works best for you with what you're kind of making, I would say. Yeah, that was pretty fast. Pull that document up.
I know, I just went to search for it, and then I saw it was I found it.
And even working off of some of the transparent stuff, say you're trying to cut your roof, you have your roof set to the right size. You can even go underneath, make your house transparent, and bring your roof back. Then throw your shape in there to kind of cut that out too, so you can get that extra dimension on the inside, just to get that extra space. Upload really small objects, and you can always just take them to scale. There is an option. I wanted to do it with the toilet paper roll. If you hold down Shift and you go to size, it keeps everything. It holds that shape. It holds that true shape, and then you can kind of. So if I didn't hold down Shift, now it's going to manipulate however that box is. But if I hold Shift, now it holds true to that actual shape and keeps it. Okay.
Yeah, and you can if you build something more than just one shape, and build it all small, you can group it all together and change it all at once.
Yeah. You don't, and also when all the designs are kind of said and done, you don't have to have, not everything needs to be grouped together. Other items in. But yeah, any loose items, keep it ungrouped. You don't have to worry about grouping every little aspect together.
And then somebody was talking about this before, I forget, or maybe it was you. I forget who I was talking to, but they said about moving things below the plane so that it's still there, but you can continue building stuff and it won't be in the way.
Yeah, so when you move things below the plane, that's just your work surface. essentially.
We had a garden in our project. That's the kitchen. This is the garden area, and we used hydroponics, which would allow the plants to release oxygen into the air. So then the oxygen would flow through the ventilation system, releasing that into the other rooms, and then taking all the carbon dioxide, pushing it to the garden area so that the plants could thrive off of that. And then, of course, where we were at on the moon had, I believe it was 93% of the time was in sunlight. So we could make it that the plants could survive off of the sunlight and of the carbon dioxide of where we were.
Yeah, and I want to say, even though we're talking about like buildings for the sustainable city, I think you saw last week they did a fish hatchery, but we also have a hydroponic garden outside my classroom where they grew all kinds of vegetables, and they really lettuce, and we're New Mexican, so cilantro, and they went and they exploded. So to think about having a building that's something like a hydroponic garden inside, I want you all to think outside the box when you're working with your small groups. Like I said, I just gave them the materials and they came up with all that stuff, like the farmer's market and the fish hatchery and all that. I didn't tell them to do that. So in your small groups, use that kind of creativity, because I hadn't even thought about having a hydroponic garden area in our sustainable city until you just mentioned it.